Okay, some craziness has just gone down. I did a video yesterday where Chicago had passed some regulations to essentially stop all buses from coming to Chicago. Now Texas has responded by saying, okay, we won't send them by bus. We're going to fly them there.
Tonight, Texas Governor Greg Abbott releasing this video of state officials flying roughly 100 migrants from the Texas border to Chicago after Chicago officials started finding buses that made previous trips. Abbott writing, until Biden steps up to secure the border, we will continue to provide overwhelmed Texas border towns with much needed relief.
Okay, so here's a quick recap of what's going on. The city of Chicago claims it is a sanctuary city, and anyone from anywhere in the world who steps foot on American soil has the right to be in America. Here's the mayor saying essentially that.
These are asylum seekers. These are not illegal people. The moment they step ground on American soil, they are now officially protected by international law.
The mayor says it is important for local and federal governments to coordinate and streamline their efforts, including with leaders from Texas.
So you heard what the mayor said. If you make it on American soil and step foot, you have the right to be here. International law. So you know what the governors of Texas and Arizona said? Okay, well, since you believe that, we'll send them to you so you can take care of them. Why should we take care of them? We don't believe they should be here. You believe they should be here. So that's what they started doing.
Texas has sent another bus of migrants away from the state, this one arriving in Chicago last night. It comes after the state has sent more than 8,000 migrants to New York and Washington, D.C. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said in a statement that plans are underway to bus migrants to additional cities.
But let me also say this. Shame on Governor Abbott. What he is doing is immoral, unpatriotic, and it defies the values of who we are as Americans.
The new penalty targets private bus operators that don't obey rules on where and when to drop off migrants. Crane's Business reports violating the rules currently results in fines ranging from $2,000 to $10,000. Since last summer, 573 buses have arrived here in the city, with 473 of those since May. The new measure is expected to go before the city council next week for a final vote.
Now, these new regulations weren't something that you can easily follow. For instance, if you're a bus company in Texas, you had to get a permit, a special permit from the city of Chicago. You could only arrive in certain times or in certain places. So these restrictions just made it extremely hard for bus companies to transport migrants up into Chicago. So the bus companies said, okay, well, since you won't let us drop them off in Chicago, we'll drop them off in the surrounding neighborhoods.
Word tonight that migrant buses coming from Texas are now stopping off in the suburbs, all amid a new crackdown from the city. Lockport police confirm at least one bus from El Paso dropped off a few dozen migrants at a metro station there this afternoon. A viewer sent us this video that shows the migrants boarding Park District buses headed downtown to OEMC headquarters.
So the mayor of Chicago, not to be stopped, said, hold on, you didn't get the message. We don't want the buses to come to Chicago. So what do? You sue all the bus companies.
Instead of directing his ire where it belongs, at Joe Biden's administration, Chicago's Democrat Mayor Brandon Johnson has decided to sue bus companies for transporting illegal migrants into his sanctuary city.
Last month, Chicago's City Council passed a series of laws meant to regulate buses dropping off migrants. He's now launched 55 lawsuits against what he's deemed rogue companies for violating the regulations.
Meanwhile, the mayor's spokesman touts the success of the city's efforts to house migrants in churches and other areas that have brought the number of migrants camped out at O'Hare Airport down from a couple of thousand to just several hundred. Some success.
So some of the bus companies were like, well, we can still take people to Chicago. How can they stop us from just dropping people off? But Chicago was serious and started impounding the buses. So literally taking their buses away from them and fining them something like $2,000 or $3,000.
Just learned in the last couple of hours that the city of Chicago has impounded a migrant bus for the first time. The city council passing a measure today to start impounding buses that do not obtain a permit from CDOT and don't drop the migrants off at the designated landing zone. Now, after the vote, Mayor Johnson spoke about the need for the ordinance to make sure new arrivals are brought to an area where city employees are ready to help.
Putting these companies on notice that this blatant disregard of the city regulations will not be tolerated.
So the bus company was like, yo, they're impounding our buses, they're fining us. I don't think we can take migrants up from Texas to Chicago anymore, right? They essentially are just making it impossible for us to do it. So the governor of Texas said no. They're getting migrants, but now we're going to send them en masse by flying them up there. Check it out.
Texas officials say it is in response to the city obstructing its busing program, while local leaders are calling it trafficking. At the direction of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, more than 100 migrants boarded a private plane from El Paso to O'Hare Tuesday. Abbott's office tells our sister station in Dallas that because Mayor Brandon Johnson is, quote, targeting migrant buses from Texas, we are expanding our operation to include flights to Chicago, unquote.
We have a governor that now openly and defiantly is saying that he's going to commit human trafficking to show Chicago and to teach us a lesson.
Monday, the mayor announced harsher penalties for bus drivers who don't follow guidelines, including impounding and towing buses that try to skirt the law.
Now, the reason why things are starting to blow up again is because the migrant crisis at the border has just exploded, where you're seeing records amount of migrants crossing the border per day.
Jose, well, for a lot of us who are in Eagle Pass right now reporting, we can say this is the largest group of migrants we've ever seen in Eagle Pass in the years that we've been reporting in this area. Now, for context, I think we need to understand that a lot of migrants were in Mexico for the last few months or years. And in late October, we saw large caravans move through Mexico. So many of us expected this new surge at some point, either in November or at some point in December, and we are now seeing this. We're seeing large groups of migrants that are arriving, not just here. It's happening in Arizona. It's happening in parts of California. It's happening in different parts of the border. Again, these are migrants that had been in Mexico for a long time. There's issues in Mexico, Jose. As you know, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, the president, is reaching the end of his presidency. The Federal Immigration Agency there going through so many issues that they've essentially stopped policing many of the areas in the country. I've spoken to my contacts in South Mexico who say many of the migrants are telling each other now is the time to go to the U.S.-Mexico border.
So Texas is shipping them up to the sanctuary cities, right? Hey, you guys want them to come in. If they come in and step on U.S. soil, they automatically have all these international rights. Okay, go up there to Chicago and enjoy your international rights. But now, since Chicago's plan to stop the buses has been thwarted, they're now begging, crisis, we need help, we can't stop the buses.
This morning, the Latino caucus here in Chicago calling it cruel and pleading with the Biden administration to step up.
I support the call for additional resources from the federal government. That is essential. It's critical for Chicago, it's critical for New York, for Houston, for all the other cities that are seeking to do everything that they can, but they cannot do it alone.
For flight saying Sanctuary City, Chicago started obstructing and targeting our busing mission. Texas will now expand our operation to include flights to Chicago. Until Biden steps up to secure the border, we will continue to provide overwhelmed Texas border towns with much needed relief.
So let's just call it a day. We know what was happening here. The mayor of Chicago and the city council up there were trying to have their cake and eat it too. They were trying to stay a sanctuary city, but keep migrants out and still have the high ground. We're still a sanctuary city, but the buses need to follow these rules or we'll fine them and impound them. Essentially making it extremely hard for buses to bring migrants up there, right? That's what they were doing. Even though they're a welcoming city, a sanctuary city, and they want the migrants, they really don't want the migrants. So Texas is what I think I would have done. All right, look, we'll just fly them up there. It's easier and we'll fly more of them up there. Now it's like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We have too much. It's going crazy. They're evil people for sending us the migrants we asked for. Remember, they asked for the migrants to come there. They're a sanctuary city, for God's sake. This is the problem. It's easy to talk on your high horse when you ain't got the problem, right? When the problem was in Texas, it's easy to say all that stuff. But now the problem is in your back door. And instead of trying to address the problem, They're trying to isolate themselves. And I think they've been exposed. And now the good thing is the people of Chicago hopefully will start realizing that it's their own politicians that put them in this mess. And only thing that people in Texas and the people in Arizona are doing is giving them what they asked for. They asked for migrants. They asked to be a sanctuary city. Nobody forced them to do that. And now they've gotten exactly what they wanted. But I don't think they expected it to cost so much. As always, tell me what in the comment section. Tell me if it's Nate, you're totally off on this one. They're right. Chicago's right. Texas is wrong. If you believe that, I want to hear it in the comment section, because to be fair, if someone wants migrants and you send the migrants, they don't have anything to worry about. This is not trafficking, as they're trying to say. This is, you wanted migrants? We're giving you migrants. Like, share, subscribe, do all that great YouTube stuff. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.